Alright, so here we are. For everyone in the Twitch chat, let me quickly introduce everyone here. We'll be talking about the AVA alpha testing. We'll have a little bit of a discussion, explain what this alpha test is about. We'll have some of the guests here giving us some feedback we'll introduce in a bit. And then at the end, we will hear from 19 himself, from Redux staff, what is still planned for this alpha testing. But first, let me introduce everyone who is around. There we go. We have a few people from the Operatives team around here. We have Ramses III and Silent here to assist us with some questions and also be giving player feedback. We have two of our core testers who were so kind to join us already there to give some proper feedback, which are Epi and Nesquik. And of course, we have our Redux employee 19 here. And I think it would be wise to start off with a little bit of a short introduction about you, 19, because I don't think people have heard you yet or know who you are.
Okay, hello guys, and welcome. Welcome to the alpha test also. It's the second day, or just before the second day begins. I am a Red Duck employee working on the AVA DocTech project. And you guys all see me on Discord as well. Yeah, so any questions that you guys have, I've been trying to get to you guys, but there's been a lot of PMs and messages that I've been dealing with. So if you guys have any questions in the future, just feel free to PM me or any of the ops. That'd be great.
All right. Now we'll start talking a little bit about the alpha testing and what was intended for the alpha testing. So basically what Redux has done is they have set up a build for us to kind of try and see how it was going, and of course get some feedback in, whether it is positive or negative feedback, and rework that for the beta testing. Keep in mind though that as this is only a 5-day alpha testing, Redux is not looking to fix those issues yet during alpha. This is all feedback that we're taking in over the course of 5 days, and then we'll be able to look into those and of course do something with that for the beta testing, because we have received quite a few things already, haven't we?
Yeah, that's which is great, I think, on my end. I can say an alpha for any game to be successful needs to receive a variety of feedback, and that's exactly what's been happening, and it's a good start. And we've been seeing great ideas also being posted everywhere, and we look forward to working with those feedbacks once we have finished the alpha. I would like to let everyone understand, first of all, what our plans were and still is in terms of how this alpha procedure takes place. In terms of the alpha, there's two types of alpha testing that goes on in gaming, and we have chosen one way where it's a 5-day period, which is relatively short. And in this short timeline, we wanted people to understand how the gameplay worked initially and how things looked as a starting point. And from that point on, after we start taking in feedbacks after the alpha is complete, then we will compile the information and work on the feedbacks to modify and mold the game into what we really wanted to create according to community feedback, right? Now, the issue is people need to understand it is alpha, and therefore there's bound to be a lot of issues that you may not agree with, which is perfectly fine, I would say. But we need to understand that it is. We need to agree that the build is not complete. It's far from being complete. And the purpose of the alpha is to make the game build as close to as being perfect for you guys as users. So that's where I would like to start off by explaining that to you guys. So expect things that you don't agree with. Expect things to not be perfect. Expect things to be different, and just keep providing your feedbacks.
All right, I've been noting that down in the meantime as well, so people can still see it on the stream for those that are turning in a little bit later. I think what would be good to do now is, since we've already explained a little bit about what the alpha testing is about, it's indeed 5 days long. We're just trying to see how the gameplay works and use that as a starting point in order to mold that into what we want to create, which of course we'll see in the upcoming months for beta testing and of course for the full release, which is later on. I think it would be good to start off with a little bit of feedback from the Operatives team first. So I'd like to invite either Ramses or Silent to speak up and say what they liked about the game, some good remarks and some remarks that they would like to see changed.
Well, so I would like to start off by introducing myself. I'm Ramses. I was a GS in AVA for a really long time. And so I'm back on the operative team now. And so I spent literally all day yesterday on the alpha test. And I could definitely say that there's a lot of things that I like about the game. One overarching theme is that I see a lot of potential. And I could see potential for this game to basically take over, like, I guess, as far as competitive FPS goes, most of the games that are viable right now. For example, I could see a completely decimating Black Squad. That's for sure. As far as like the gameplay goes, there's a lot of people that things that people mention, such as movement not being fluid, and so I guess I kind of can feel that as well. But overall, I felt like the game was really polished. I felt like the aim was really polished. My shots were registering. I guess it just felt like I was playing AVA again. It felt like I was playing back in IJJI again, and I can't tell you how good that felt. Like, that's why I spent pretty much all day. I mean, I'm on summer breaks right now. I have nothing better to do, but I spent all day on it yesterday, and I was just having so much fun. I guess just in nostalgia, and I mean also the fact that I could just see the competitive viability, see where this game has the potential of going. It felt me to like, it filled me with like excitement, and so I'm really excited for what the alpha still has to hold, because there's three and a half more days of alpha. I'm really excited for where the beta is gonna go. I can't wait to see more people into the game. I mean, I'm just excited. I just can't wait to see where it's gonna go.
That's good to know.
All right, so that was Ramses's feedback. Silent, do you also want to talk a little bit about the game, or should we move over to our core testers?
I agree with what Ramses said completely, so I don't have anything to add on that.
All right, then we'll move over to our core testers. We have Epi and Nesquik here. Which one of you Germans wants to kick off?
I don't mind.
Nesquik starts, I guess.
All right.
Okay. I'm Nesquik, I'm 20 years old. I have played AVA for a long time. I was a competitive player for either the German national team and for other various teams. So I know the game in and out, and I can talk from a competitive perspective. And yeah, I provided some Reddit posts already on the Reddit forum from AVA dog tag. And yeah, that's me. And as I said, I will provide any feedback during the alpha on Reddit. And I like to share my opinion as well. And I like to discuss as well on Reddit. And so feel free to check out my post on Reddit. And yeah, that's what I do and why I'm here.
Okay. I've just put up the topic that you made on Reddit, so we can quickly scroll through that. But if we look at your first impression about the game, I mean, it's obviously outlined here as well, but what kind of things would you like to talk about? Like, what do you think was good, and what kind of things would you give as feedback for Reddit that you would hopefully like to see change for beta? Of course, not going into too much detail.
Yeah, that's actually a tough question, because I have many things to say, either positive and negative, of course. Positive, I would agree to Ramses that I was filled with excitement. Definitely, I could see the potential as well. That's a good sign for a game, and of course I like the open mind from the devs, and of course the that they listen to the community, or they want to listen to the community, and if they keep doing that, the game will be successful, in my opinion. If you compare other games, I don't want to call names, but many companies forget to listen to the communities when the game releases, and then they continue to die because they do mistakes in choices and stuff. Yeah, and bad things. You can read the Reddit post. There are a lot of things that I mentioned. The most annoying, I guess, would be. It's hard to say actually, but I noticed that that's a pretty detailed one. I noticed that there's a slight mouse movement difference in the X direction and the Y direction. That is not a good sign for muscle memory and so on. So that should be looked into, and that was the thing that annoyed me the most, because when I move my mouse right, it feels inconsistent compared to the when I move my mouse up and down, and that shouldn't be a case. I don't know if it's just me, but my friend reported that as well. So I listed that in the list on the Reddit post, and you can surely check that out. There are many more points that I listed down, and yeah.
All right, maybe we can get some feedback from 19 about that straight away. If we look at the movement, I think it's also something I've heard from several people. They mentioned that, well, of course, apart from the running, where we can now run sidewards, which is kind of new to people, where the running sometimes is initiated a little bit later. But if we look at the sensitivity alone, people also mentioned that running, for example, changes how your sensitivity behaves. I guess it's already pretty detailed to ask this as a kind of a question, but you've also played the game yesterday. I mean, you were there in the party with me for the first couple of games, so have you noticed anything about that, perhaps?
Yeah, well, what I can definitely say is, again, considering that this is alpha, we have to expect many things to be not up to standard in terms of their finishing, so to speak. But whether it's bugs or whether it's gameplay related thoughts or insight into matters as such, it's bound to be various. Like what Nesquik mentioned on his detailed article there, it's great. It's amazing, and what makes it amazing is not because he has portrayed his thoughts onto a written form, but the way he did it is very commanding. I would like to say that's how we would love to receive feedbacks in the future as well. The fact that if every single person that plays AVA has decides to come to us and provide us feedback in the sense that saying, I don't like this or I like this, it really gives us a vague entry point to consider that feedback as data. So with that being said, laying it out very straightforwardly and doing some tests on his, I assume he did some tests on his own as well, and then it becomes a valuable feedback. So from me, I would say it's not a matter of whether feedback is good or bad. All feedback is great, but try to deliver it in a sense that we can make the most use out of it, right? So by saying a person likes or dislikes something doesn't really bring up much for us to work with. Rather, such detailed feedback of why a person feels a certain way about a certain gameplay related issue allows us to look into that issue much deeper, right? So that's what I would like to ask of all the user base. Yeah, but props to you, and that's quick. It was really great to see that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I totally agree with you that people should reconsider the way they give feedback, because I don't know where I get this, but somewhere around the CS scene, Valve told the community to provide proper feedback when they occur bugs or something. They have to the community who shows the bugs, they have to provide an evidence on how to create those bugs for Valve, so they can look into that and then fix it. You know, that gives me an insight
yeah.
for the community, for as a community, how development teams work essentially, and then I can adjust my feedback regarding that. You know, so that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, that's great.
Spoken.
Yeah, to just outline that, basically what we want with feedback is what we want, what our goal is for feedback, obviously, is to have it changed in the game. But for that, feedback needs to be on a level that the message that we convey is clear enough for the developers themselves, in this case the coders, to actually change those things. So if we say, like, for example, the game mechanics are good, which is a complaint that we've heard, then yeah, if you hear that as a coder, like, the game mechanics are not good, then you're wondering, like, what do people want? But if you mention some more clear explanations indeed, like, for example, the recall patterns are not consistent, which is a thing that Nesquik noted in his topic as well. He showed that in Edapin as well. I saw that earlier today. He did a couple of tests, and it was shown, hey, this is not consistent. Which comes up with the debate, do we want this to be not consistent, or do we want it to be consistent? And if we want it to be consistent, then this is indeed something that they can look into, and that's detailed enough for them to actually do something with that. So this is the type of feedback that we are definitely looking for during alpha testing and moving forward.
Now, I would like to quickly add to that. The reason why I would like to explain why we are asking the feedback to be streamlined in the process of a survey form is because we have 1,000+ members that are testing the game currently, and just in Discord we see so many people that are providing different feedbacks, and not to say that any of them are less valuable. It's just logically speaking, it's very hard to keep track of individuals that just simply write something to us and hope that that becomes a feedback that we work on, right? It's in order for us to be efficient and in order for us to really engage in determining what your voice is as a group, as a community, we ask your support in how you would provide such feedback to us. And in that manner, we have asked that people would submit feedback regarding the game, all parts of the gameplay, through a session that we would provide to you through email. It would be in a survey form, and it would be very detailed. So with that being said, we're not trying to discount anyone's idea in Discord at this time, but it's to be efficient, right? And also, a final note on that is we are not able to make direct changes during alpha. It's impossible because of the time frame, because of resources. So we need to make sure that we go through internal tests before making public changes to the build. And considering these issues, that's why we're following through with the plan of a streamlined process of data collection, feedback collection.
All right. Just to inform for the chat as well, we are seeing what you're saying in the chat, and we have a couple of requests already noted down that we will discuss later on. There will be one remark that we will discuss first before we're moving over to Epi's point of view, and then we will provide some more time to look at some feedback from you. But keep in mind, do not go into too much detail. If we have too many detailed questions, then yeah, those are questions that we can't really answer at this point, because obviously those have to be discussed first. And once we're done with that, we'll move over to the last bit, which is talking about an update we have coming for the alpha testing. So before we move on to Epi, there's one question I also saw it mentioned in the chat just a minute ago, and I think quite a few people already talked about it, and that is aim punch. Aim punch is currently a thing in the alpha build. It was not there in the old UAVA, but before saying if it's bad or not, although I definitely have a biased opinion about that, so to say, I would love to hear 19's input about that. So, or can we just call you Rob? I think that's easier.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, in terms of, for me, whether it's aim punch or recalls or anything else for that matter right now, it all comes back to the build being alpha. And what I can say right now is I have no separate opinion in terms of whether aim punch is good or bad in terms of AVA. That's for you guys to decide with us. So we will determine whether it will be included, whether it's reduced, whether it's improved, or whether it's changed or removed overall from the game. The decision will be made through in accordance with how the feedback plays out. So again, you guys hold the key to how the alpha build changes through the beta and how AVA becomes a game that whether you guys enjoy playing or not. So that's what I can say.
All right. Just to tackle a little bit, because I had some people answering, what is aim punch? Aim punch is basically that when you get hit, your aim will move up a bit, which means it's harder for you to counter that. I've already noticed myself that if you use the higher caliber armor as a sniper, you'll be less susceptible to that compared to the light armor. But a lot of people that I've talked to, for example, said that they wanted to have it removed, which is why we brought it up right now.
Yeah, so I'd like to address a comment. They actually identified it pretty well. So basically, the higher damage your gun should be, the more aim punch that you get should be a factor. I guess that would mean that aim punch wouldn't be linear. It would be variable depending on the damage or that you take, or the gun or the armor that you have on. I'm pretty sure that's the idea that they're trying to get behind right now. It's just not refined.
Yeah, it's just the starting point, right?
Yeah.
But you've got the point across pretty well here. We did have an idea on that, but regardless of the reason behind it, it's the fact of the matter is that we are ongoing through the alpha to test these out with you guys and to see how they work out and to determine how modification would be needed or what kind of changes would be needed in the future.
Okay. Then we'll move on to our next core tester. We also have Epi here. We played the alpha testing yesterday a little bit, and 1.9 was there too. Rob was there too for the first couple of games. What is your first impression about the game?
Yeah, hey, my name is Epi. Probably know me from Team Global or Crackheads. Was 2 LANs on the last publisher. AWC and AIC. I pretty don't want to go too into detail, to be honest, because we already spoke too much about detailed things. Even when 1.9 said it's just alpha, I think they're can change a lot. I just speak about a little bit around the game. The improvement for the game for me was like 2 things. The first thing was like you can see your mates now visible through the map. Something that many people really hated on my stream. I really liked it because you're having all of the time in overview without watching on the map. And what I really liked was they changed the smoke system. Like normally on the old AVA, since EG released it on 2K9, the smoke popped up instantly after 1 second. On the only 3-4 pushes came out of the smoke and didn't even covered anything. Now it's pretty much changed. Only when the smoke like sees go and the smoke is just stopped to fly, it blows up and it's pretty good. These are very, very good changes for the competitive scene, I think. What I'm not really understanding, and this is my first question to Rob, is the core community which left the area games of AVA was pretty much they went to Black Squad, of course, but it's pretty much the old AVA community, and now you're bringing on a new game. Okay, you try an alpha and say, okay, we try this game in another way, like changing some systems, recon control system, whatever. You want to know how the community likes it. I understand it, but I think the core community is still the old AVA one, and they love the game because it's how it was. Yeah, the only thing why this game was already all the time getting republished by other publishers was because they were already this gameplay. They all liked it, and they always left the game because of pay to win. And now you just bring the game back and really put away this pay to win system, but destroy or put it away for the moment what really was the base, the basic for AVA, and that's the point that I don't understand. I mean, what's the reason behind it? Why you change that, what is pretty much the best on AVA for pretty much every player?
Well, to answer that, I would have to start by saying that compared to the previous AVA, the number of weaponry that's available, because again, with the addition of the pay to win element previously, right now we have 9 weapons that are available, primary, and that's a starting point, but trying to balance something out of hundreds of weapons to 9 weapons, it's a big deal. It's not something that we can do overnight. I wouldn't say the balancing is complete, but rather I would say the balancing has just started through the alpha. So that's the point that I wanted to make also. So it's a good question that you asked. We could have just leave the weapons as they were in the previous AVA, but in that sense, it would not be balanced at all. So from a starting point perspective, we needed to make sure that at least the weapons that we're introducing from the get-go, which is the 9, has to be somewhat balanced at least, right? So we had to change some of the systems, but in no way we're saying that this is the final version. So again, your feedback works towards what we will be doing in terms of changes to the weapons and whatever it may be, including mechanics. So yeah, just keep a positive end on that, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah,
If
I
I
get
can,
this point.
if I can say something about that, I think you cannot, as you said, Rob, as well, you cannot compare an alpha game, which has 2 game modes and I don't know, like 9 weapons, as you said, to a full game like AVA was, with different game modes and stuff, all coming like every month or something. You can't really compare that right now. I mean, what you have to talk about is where do you want the game to go? What is the idea behind the game? Is it a game like Counter-Strike, for example, very orientated on competitive scene or competitive wise? Then pay to win factor cannot be a thing, and unlimited weapons, which are hard to balance, can be a thing as well, you know. And I understand that you are arguing about the core AVA community, which is which missing a point in this current AVA is true indeed, but for things to get better, in my opinion, is that you have to change the core AVA game, you know, in a little bit in a way which is not like drastic, but still there, you know, because the old AVA game died not because the publisher changed or something. I think the game died because it was just not very good treated in many ways, you know, and that's just because well, like millions of unbalanced things, you know, and that's just one point. And yeah, I think
the game
you can't really compare it right now, you know. That's what I was saying. You have to look forward in the future and what do you want the game to be, you know. That's the thing that has to be discussed in the community and with the devs as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I try not to compare it from now. I mean, it's an alpha, like you said. I just think to balance weapons, it's not necessary to change the whole system, the whole weapon system. I mean, you can use the old AK and just make it a little bit slower, like on the rate of fire, as example. It's small changes to improve the game instead just to make a complete new field of view, like 2 different field of views, bringing in new sounds, bringing in new recoil control systems. And that's what I think it would be not. I think it's not necessary. You just can say, okay, maybe the AK is overpowered on the para, give him less rate of fire, more recoil, something like this. Like it's not changing the whole feeling you got after like 7-8 years of AVA. Just make it a little bit more fair. I see that pay to win guns need to get removed, especially this A point shit we got. Yeah, I understand it. But if you just take the basic weapons, the old school weapons, and try to change them slightly to it, so you have like an old feeling with the new guns, I think that would be a better way instead of doing it what now. I'm just speaking about the competitive scene, not what the casuals playing normally.
Yes, I agree, but to that, it is very hard, in my opinion, to balance guns. If you
Exactly.
you're saying
exactly.
it's pretty easy to just change the rate of fire, for example, but what is the effect of that? Look at Counter-Strike again, for example. The M4 AS silencer just got buffed a little bit with 10 more rounds in the magazine. That's actually nothing, but it still has a lot of impact because I don't know, you can wallbang, for example. It's a very, very minor change, but has a lot of impact in competitive wise again. And I think you cannot really say that you just have to tweak the guns and then it goes all well. I think that's the wrong move. I think the move with new guns, new sounds, gives the feeling for players. It's a different AK, for example, like the last one. So it definitely behaves different and maybe more balanced, you know. So I don't think you should have adopted the old guns and just tweak them a little bit and then see where it goes. I think the approach right now is pretty good.
Not only that, the primary goal in mind has to be long-term viability of the competitive scene. What changes can you make now to the game that would allow the competitive scene to be viable for a very long term? And you guys got to remember that the original AVA back in IJJI was pretty competitively viable. There was competitive teams, people were playing competitively. But as the game went on, since there was so little room for change, so little room for like update, because like everything was just so made in such a specific way that there was no space for, I guess, variation, that the guns just became like nerfed and like laser and pay to win. So we gotta so I guess that's one thing that you have to be really careful with this. In what way can you keep competitively or a long-term competitive viability while also keeping I guess the interesting aspect to it, like the variation?
Yeah, well, I would say I think we all agree on the fact that first of all, it's not a light matter that can be resolved in a single discussion. And if balancing issue was ever easy for any game, I would say many games out there wouldn't have had such issues in the past. So the balancing issue, of course, it's a heavy topic to discuss, but I would bring up and remind the fact that I think it's great that us developers are coming to you guys, the community members, to discuss this openly with you guys without going through any different channels, and to check out and figure out what's best for the game as a user, right? And with that being said, as we move forward, balancing issue is not exempt from something that can change with the build. It's definitely one of the main topics that we'll continue to discuss down the road. And it'd be amazing to have these sessions in the future as well to discuss more detail upon these matters. Today, we can't really go into detail right now, but even after alpha, we can continue to discuss these matters to see how the balancing affects or balancing changes affects users in the competitive scene, as well as what Ramses mentioned in terms of long-term viability. It's a hot topic, I think, to continue to discuss together. So let's put it put a label on that and consider it to be something that's ongoing. It wouldn't end today. It would not end in a several discussion periods.
Definitely.
I would like to ask you something. I'm not sure if you can answer this. It's just what I asked myself yesterday. I just found out some slightly changes. I mean, Red Duck is publishing like every AVA game. I mean, a lot of AVA games in different countries, right? So now when Red Duck is publishing in the EU, yeah, and you say, okay, maybe you want to have later on competitive scene, even international, maybe. And now it's far away. I'm just asking, like, if you already have an opinion about that. What's your goal, you know? If you keep doing this, like changing the game for EU for the best, like community sites, this is the best and this is the best, and in the end we got a good AVA for everyone, yeah, but it's not completely the same like on international level, yeah. How can you connect this, like saying, okay, we're starting now after 4 years, like saying in 4 years we're gonna make the next LAN for AVA EU, and we sending like 5 people to somewhere making a LAN, and then we have to play the old AVA version because they on other countries they don't have this AVA that we got. Is that already in your mind, or did you even speak about that one time?
Yeah, I can answer that, and it's pretty straightforward. First thing is, this is the first time we're publishing AVA ourselves, so
Yeah.
You're considering that when you're saying AVA was published by us in different regions, you're speaking of our publishing partners. So this is actually the first time we're actually publishing ourselves. We are the developers for AVA, but we are directly publishing ourselves in 2018 for the first time. With this being said, Other regional versions, so to speak, that would be Taiwan, China, Japan, and Korea. Those regions have their the original AVA version that's ongoing currently in terms of servicing. It is definitely separated with AVA dog tag. So AVA dog tag should be considered as a separate entity. It will not be cross joint with those builds. Does that answer your question? It's very straightforward. AVA dog tag is its own build. It's not transferable or engageable with other builds out there.
So you want to make an own game for itself, which is not even connected in somehow to other regions.
Yes, AVA dog tag is in its own identity in the market. So we wouldn't be following through with, for example, a match with AVA Korea users with like AVA dog tag users. It's two different games. So you have to differentiate that.
Okay. Are you planning then to release the AVA dog tag in other regions as well, except of NA and Europe? So other players can play that too?
I can't give you information on which regions, but yes, as we move forward, alpha testing focuses on EU and NA as main targets. As we move forward, we'll be expanding regions, hopefully, but I cannot give you details on which regions at this time.
Yeah, sure. It's all right. Just the plans, you know, so you have an idea in mind. That's good.
But like these talks, we just like got together today and we didn't even discuss too much in detail, but I'd love to do this in the future as well, to gain your insights as players and also as ops, and also provide my feedback as a dev and see how things play out. And I think being in communication is the key here. And I wanted to let the community know that we are listening. We're not sitting here doing nothing. We are listening, but it's just we're looking to do things in an efficient way. So hopefully you guys can understand that. We have 8 minutes before the servers go up. So we should round this up. But before we do, I think, Myth, we have some news that we should share with the community.
Yeah. Before we move on, we have a couple of other questions coming in from the community. I'll just pick out one in specific since we're a little bit low on time. And that is one of our viewers wondering if ping limit is something that's going to be discussed for beta or for the full release.
Sorry, I lagged out for a second there. Once more.
So I'll repeat that. Is a ping limit something to be discussed for later builds, so for beta or for the full release?
Ping related, you said?
A ping limit. So, for example, a user won't be able to join a room or a server if his ping is above, let's say, 130 to make sure that people from their own region play in their respective region.
Regional locks.
And won't interfere with other people.
That's something that you guys should also include in your feedbacks. It's something that we don't have an answer for it at this time. I can't tell you an answer for it, but if the majority of the community feels a certain way is in right, then it's something that we can definitely look into.
I like the irony though that you lagged out as soon as we started talking about a ping limit.
I know. I didn't mean to lag out. It's just it just happens.
So we have a few minutes left, which means we have some time to talk about what is up and coming in the next couple of days already for the alpha testing. We're now in day 2 out of the 5 days, and we have a little bit of an update coming in with some stuff to test. The question, at least that remains now, is are you going to say that, Rob, or should I do that?
You can say it. I can support you if you're missing anything.
All right. So there are 2 things that we'll be looking into. The first thing is something that we've heard from the community and a lot of from the core members as well. We did a quick poll with that last night, and that was players mentioning, why do we have 8v8 matchmaking in quick match and not 5v5? Well, this is something that Red Duck is looking to change. They're looking to do this tomorrow as soonest. if everything goes well, tomorrow we'll have a little bit of an update where we won't have 8v8 matchmaking, but where we have 5v5 matchmaking instead. So that is the first thing that we are looking for. So keep in mind, it will be 5v5 instead of 8v8 and not 5v5 and 8v8. There is only one option. We discussed it with the players, and I think it's best to, I think what we could agree on with Rob as well, to divide the alpha testing in a way that we have indeed the 8v8, which we have now, which we had yesterday, and which we have today. And hopefully tomorrow, if there are no hiccups at least, we have the 5v5 for day 3, 4, and 5.
Just to add on that, we are trying to get that through for the 3rd day of testing for 5v5 changes. The issue right now is we're not completely, well, we're still working on it, basically. So if everything goes well and internal testing feels like it's good to go live with the change in the build, then we'll do it right away. But it may require us some more time if there are any issues technically. So just keep that in mind. We are trying to get it through. And I would like to also stress the reason why we're doing so, again, is because we're actually spending hours on end here in the office to change anything that we can for you guys during alpha. Again, going back to the beginning, we are not able to change much during the alpha, but after alpha through the feedbacks. So that's the main priority here. In terms of the 5v5 matchmaking, hopefully it'll be ready by tomorrow, and you guys can enjoy a more paced gameplay, I would say.
All right, just to touch base on some comments in the chat, if we already talked about gun recall and the player movement, this is stuff that is too broad to be fixed in a matter of days, so that won't be fixed or addressed during the alpha testing, but has already been brought up by many players, so this is definitely something that Red Duck is looking into and looking to at least do something with that for the beta testing. I can't like straight out say like, oh, it's going to be like this in the beta. We simply do not know yet, but it is issues that we're looking into. And if I scroll up real quick in the chat, because I saw another thing I wanted to address. Where is it? The round times, whether round times are 2:30 and not 2 minutes. 2:30 is pretty much what it's always been for AVA, and AVA's gameplay is already fairly quick, and given that the bomb time is also about 40 seconds, I think 2:30 is still fine given the size of the maps that we will have. And indeed, skin guns will have the same stats as normal guns, but that was that is something that we pretty much disclosed at day 1 of what we told you guys about AVA.
Yeah. As for the other news, I think we should pretty speed things up.
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna do that right now. This is the last thing that we'll see added to the alpha. This is also tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so tomorrow, the update, if everything goes well, of course, it will be a little bit bigger. We will see 2 maps being added to the game. What I want to stress before disclosing which maps it are going to be is that these maps are not 100% finished. So keep in mind that if you have any bugs there, like maybe some walling issues or some text issues, that's simply because the map is not finished. But we do want to add in some extra maps, and it is 1 TDM map and it is 1 demolition map. For demolition, the map that was the most ready and which we were able to get in was Black Sand. Sorry to upset the people, but it will be the snow version for now. But we already talked about this before the stream went live, so it is definitely up for debate whether this is going to be the snow version or the non-snow version as before. When we look at TDM, the map that we will be entering is a more recent map. So I see a lot of people talking about Cold Case, but Cold Case at this point is not ready yet. The map that we'll be adding tomorrow will be Dock, which is a map I think from 2015, which we also used for 2v2 cups on ESL. The map is also nearly finished, at least in the furthest stage together with Black Sand. So that map will also be added tomorrow. And I see a question being spammed in the meantime about binos. Bino usage, we will discuss that at a later point as well. to be fair, in the previous, if you said remove it for esports, it was actually a very cool asset to use in esports. So I think removing binos altogether is not really up for debate, personally.
Yeah, so those detailed feedbacks, please continue to address them, but also remember to fill them out in detail during the exit survey after the alpha test is over or towards the closure. And we'll work on them and compile them to bring you changes that are hopefully positive for your experience.
Okay. So with that, I think we're going to round off. In the meantime, it's 5 p.m. CST, so the servers are up right now, which means you guys will be able to play. To again stress about the feedback that we've been given so far. Feedback will be taken into account after the alpha testing, which is when Reddick is going to assemble that and work on that together with the OP team, of course, but together with the community itself as well, to make sure that we prepare the game properly for the beta testing, so stuff is not going to change instantly. And yeah, as we said, tomorrow we'll have a slight update, hopefully with the 5v5 matchmaking if no hiccups occur, and with the return of the maps of Black Sand and Dock. However, they're not fully finished, so keep in mind that some bugs may occur in that. I think with that, we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we?
Thanks for the
Yeah,
answers,
and then-
thanks for the time. I'm gonna go
thanks
now.
for your time.
No problem, we can repeat it anytime. So have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Alright, see you, Happy.
Bye.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you
Have
very
fun
much.
in game.
We'll definitely have fun in game. I'll make sure to stream a little bit later as well. I think Cerecio is going to stream right now, so I think I'll drop him a good host so you guys can enjoy some content from one of our operatives. Any final words before you're leaving, Rob, or you want to leave it at this?
No, just enjoy the game and just continue to provide the great feedbacks and be part of the community.
Alright, thank you very much for that. So that means I'll be rounding off the stream as well. I'll make sure that the rest can hear it too. I'll be rounding off the stream right now, and I'll make sure to drop a host for Cerecio. Just to touch base on the final question I saw in the chat about any official esports scenes. We already have our ESL section set up under my command. So if you have any esports related questions, definitely make sure to forward them over to me. I'll be able to talk to you more about that. But we'll be looking forward, at least for me personally, hopefully to do something with that in beta, if that is of course viable. So for now, thank you very much for watching and tuning in with this meeting. I'll make sure to upload that later as well. And for now, enjoy the alpha day 2 when it lasts, as it's another 12 hours today. And if not, make sure to watch Cerecio's stream that I'll be hosting now. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you later. Good night.